am tired. Let's not beat around the bush here. This is Saturday evening, and I had my week and a half-ish off with my trip to Finland, and I am still dealing with the pace of my deliveries, because all these restaurants are on I can tell you when they're going to be needing another load. And before I left, I knew which ones would be needing wood while we were on an airplane. So I took them wood and stocked them up. Well, everything's just off now. You know, they're hitting on different dates than I'm used to. And this week has just been, I've been chasing my tail. I'm getting phone calls when I'm not expecting it. And I've had multiple deliveries with restaurants, residential starting to pick up, and I've been doing pretty good production. I got a bunch of wood, and it still needs stacking. My one high school kid has, he's got a busy week too. He's in multiple sports. So the bottom line is I'm just tired right now. I'm dragging. But here I am. It's a Saturday evening, and I am heading out to a restaurant with a cord loaded up in the trailer, and I'm going to get it stacked. And I think this will be, well, no, it won't be. I got to have 20 bundles made for Sunday. I forgot about them. So is the joys of self-employment. And but you know what? I'm not, I guess that came off as complaining, but I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying this. What else would I rather be doing? I enjoy Firewood. I enjoy delivering it. You know, it's on a weekend, but my name is on the door of the truck. So if not me, then who? It's got to get done. So I do it. Such a big difference in your mindset from when I was employed, you know, with my real job, working for a corporation, making them rich, you know. If they would have asked me after a busy week to come in and work on a Saturday evening, they would have gotten an earful. But when it's your business and your livelihood, I think things change, and here we are. Our task right now, I have my trailer loaded with a cord, and it's my dry maple ash beach mix. It's going to a restaurant that cooks with firewood, and they go through about a cord every 12 to 14 days. And it's an easy delivery usually. I can just back right up to the woodshed, and we just stack the wood right off the tailgate, and there's minimal walking. It goes pretty quick. This restaurant has been one of my bread and butters, and it has been one of the big drivers for me as a legitimate firewood delivery service. Once other restaurants saw that I delivered to this place, I think that gives them confidence to know that I'm for real, and I've picked up a ton of business off of this one account. So if you guys are looking into restaurants, there's another advantage for you. You know, the downside is you got to do it. You know, when they call, the answer is yes. They can call at, you know, the most inopportune time, but you got to have your plan in place. You got to get the wood down there, because they cook with wood. If they don't have any firewood, they can't cook their food. All right, so we are heading there, and it's right off the highway. We're almost there. What I have to do is take my invoices and get signed in. You never, they call it receiving. They don't do receiving unless they have an invoice, and then I get one signed by them, and I keep it for my records. That's because, you know, when you deliver a recurring invoice every week, if one from a month ago doesn't get paid, you got to have proof that you were there, so you got to have a signature. They get a copy of my invoice too, because they will send it to their headquarters in a few states over, and it takes about 30 days to get me my check. So that's how the process works. I will be loading this in. This is about a day's worth for them, so they would have been out had this been, had I not stopped down here to get this filled up. So we've hit them just at the right time, and I'm going to go get signed in and let's get stacking. This new trailer, I have the tarp on. Man, I really like this because you worry about stuff, you know, the crumbs and stuff blowing out when you're going down the road. And I was driving in a windstorm once, and I had a whole piece of wood just get caught with the wind and blown out onto the street. No one was around to see it, thank God, but everything's settled with this. I had started unloading my trailer differently, and because, you know, I bring this all the way up and I can just unload off the back, but I've started unloading this flat until I get to about here, because I can pull out a big stack of it and I can go a lot faster like this. I just got to get started by pulling these pieces away from the door, and that keeps them from falling onto the ground. I have learned that the objective to good firewood is to keep it off the ground. Saves your back too. So I have the wood pulled away from the door. So from here, what I've started doing is I just grab and toss it in. And then after about 5 or 10 trips, I'll straighten everything up. It still has to be stacked nice for it all to fit. It really only holds one cord. And if you just throw it in there, it won't fit and it looks unprofessional. And you don't want the wood falling on top of anyone. So here's what I mean, guys. I can just pull a nice stack of this all out at once. Put it into place. Straighten it up. And keep at it. What do you think? I gotta tell you, seasoned firewood is noticeably lighter. I had just stacked a bunch of maple that I just made, and it's heavy compared to this. This is 1-year-old firewood. See, it's checked, it's dry, it's clean. Guys, when you stack stuff off the ground, single file rows, you can't beat it. And that's going to continue to be my challenge as my volume increases on how am I going to get my wood seasoned. And I don't know, I'd never see me using bags. I just don't think we're seasoned firewood is the way to go. And every time I look into a different solution, it just seems paying someone $20 to stack a quart of firewood is the best for everyone. So this is how I do it, guys. You see, I'm really fast into this trailer now. I'm probably just under a halfway through. And it is really nice when your firewood's all the same length. It stacks easy. It looks great. I am flying, man. Now I will shut my doors and we'll pick the trailer up in the air, and then we'll just start unloading it from the tailgate. So we are up in the air, and now it just feeds, and I'm just able to unload it and we get out of here. One of the blind spots I had when I started this business was restaurants. I didn't even think about them. This was one of my very first customers I had, and I almost told him no. What a big mistake that would have been. And there's that old saying, when opportunity is knocking at the door, you open the door. And so I says, yes, I can take care of you. It was a challenge at first, but that, now I don't want to call it passive income because you got to work for it, but it is something you can project each week that you're going to be getting from just one account, you know? And if you can keep that account, keep them happy, and start adding more to your business, you know, it makes the value of your business go up, but it also opens up more doors, because it was right when I was bringing the very first load to this place, I ran into the owner of another restaurant right here in this parking lot, and he needed a reliable firewood service, and I was his guy. So I was already up to 2 restaurants. One of the typical questions I get from subscribers is, how do you price restaurants? And I have found that my pricing is all over the place. There really is no right or wrong way to do it. I've always said that your prices have to make sense to you. It's got to make sense to the customer, obviously, too. You don't want your prices too high, because you'll probably wind up losing your account over time, and you don't want them too low, because you got to make it worth your while too. Things that I pay attention to, when I come into a new restaurant opportunity, is I want to know what species they want, because species to me plays a big role. You know, if it's oak or hickory, something I don't have a lot of, and if I'm still buying that wood, my prices go up, you know, because you got to pay more for that kind of wood. The volume, I don't know, volume though can go both ways. You know, if you do have a high volume account, it's nice to maybe get into them at a lower dollar amount. And you know, if you're delivering them 40 cords a year, that starts to pay off after a while. If you got to lower your price for them to get that account, it might be worth it. The big thing to pay attention to is, oh look, here's a piece of hickory. The big thing to pay attention to is, how much do you have to work to load the wood shed? I've got some restaurants where it's a big deal. You got to take a second person with you, or you got to use a wheelbarrow. This one restaurant that I saw, it's a wood shed like this, but the air movers are in front of them, and there's a curb, so you got to go over a curb with a wheelbarrow around, you know, the air movers, and then to stack the wood. Man, it adds a lot to your labor to get your wood delivered. I think also too, the distance that you have to drive to it, it shouldn't matter to the customer, because you know, they don't care where you live, they just need the wood. But it does matter to you. So consider that, and how much mileage it's taking for you to get there. And whatever you feel is comfortable for a markup on your time, your labor, and your product, you know, throw it out there. It does help that you try to find out what the restaurant was paying for the wood from the previous supplier. And negotiating points would be too, they could have been paying low for it, but the service was terrible and the product was terrible, or the supplier wouldn't answer their phone when they would call. They couldn't find them when they were out of wood. All of that, I think, would command a higher price for yourself. So if you do have a high price and they kind of wrinkle their nose at it because it's a lot more than what they used to spend, and that's what I dealt with on a number of accounts that I have, and it was, I'm telling them, you're paying not just for the wood, you're paying for the service. When you call, the answer is yes. I will answer my phone, and you will not run out of wood to burn in February when every other firewood supplier in the valley is all out of firewood. I will have your dry firewood and it will be ready to burn. Here is a piece of beech, and beech is great firewood. Man, this stuff is dry. The bark on beech is kind of like elephant skin. It's a thicker, real brittle kind of gray. It looks like maple, but maple, the bark will come all off in one sheet a lot of times. So this is maple. Beech, it's a harder wood. It's tough splitting too. It's not stringy, it's just a tough wood to split, but it smells great. It's got like a spicy kind of a note to it in the smoke. Love it. For me, the restaurant, and specifically this restaurant, was the point of no return, because I didn't feel I could have committed to this working a full-time job, and I was ready. When I decided to go full-time firewood, it wasn't just like, here we go. It was a gradual process. And landing this one here, I think, was what put me to that point of no return, where I was saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going forward. And I did everything I could not to lose this account. And trust me, they are fussy with their firewood. And I've probably delivered well over 100 cords to this place now over the years. And I have had one load rejected, and it was right at the very beginning, probably my 5th or 6th load that came in. At that point, I didn't have a lot of seasoned firewood. When I told them, that I could keep up with this pace, I only had 6 cords to my name, and I just went on a spree. We took this trailer, and I bought every stick of firewood I could possibly find. I was bringing it home. I was re-splitting it, and I even remember one time I had a box fan. I had it stacked in the garage with a box fan blowing on it, trying to get it to dry out quicker. And had they not been that fussy with me though, who's to say, they made me as good as I am now, because I saw what professional standards are, and this is a dynamite restaurant, and what they expect in the way that they service their customers, because the customers can see the firewood. I quickly adapted to their standards, and I've maintained that really with all my restaurants. And I think that is probably one of the big reasons why I was able to land so many more. I think for you, if you want to do a restaurant, there's a lot of benefits to it. But the one thing I would caution you about is it's a serious relationship. They depend on you. And at least in some places, you might be the only person they have. So if you are going to take on a restaurant, be serious about it. Make sure that you can take care of it, and make sure that you're willing to, answer that phone on a week that they completely forgot to call you and they're out, And I've done that before. I've come down here with a trunk load of firewood just to get them through the evening so that I could get my trailer loaded the next day and bring the trailer down. That's how much this place means to me, and that's how committed I am to keeping the customers happy. I try to tell them, give me 4 days notice, but sometimes you just forget. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you know how busy and hectic it can get. So it's reasonable to expect, you know, someone to forget the call sometimes. So you just have to deal with it. But be ready for that, and that's that level of commitment. But if you can get that relationship built and keep it going, it's got a lot of potential for a firewood business. I failed to mention that it is in the mid 80s. We've had a unseasonably hot spell. You know, we're in mid-September, and I mean, what the heck, we're in Ohio. You would think we would catch a break here, but we have not. The challenge for me, we are starting getting into selling season, which seems to be like late September, October, November, December. I really don't do anything other than deliver firewood. I have all my wood set up so I can just pull in broadside with my truck, load it up and go. I can sometimes get 3 full truckloads, which is a half cord. Remember, I'm not a volume company. I sell high margin. So 3 half cords going out a day, that's a lot for me. But it's also a lot of money too. And you know, you add that up with a 5-day work week, 6 or 7, whatever I have to do it. It kind of condenses your season into 3 months out of the year. So you're working, you know, to get your inventory. You're working to get your inventory up for those 3 months. But you add your restaurants to the mix, and then that is a nice recurring income that keeps coming in each month, and it makes it bearable, and you're not putting all your eggs into one basket, you know, for 3 months, because who's to say that, you know, the weather's not going to cooperate, your truck's going to break down, you're going to get hurt. All of these things can happen in that condensed period. But that's another reason where your restaurants can play a big role. And all of this wood, when I made it, it was hand stacked, single file rows. All of the mess, everything was removed from it because it was stacked. And then it gets loaded by hand into the trailer, and that cleans it up again. So here we are looking at a whole cord of firewood, and it's nice and clean. There's no mud, mushrooms, moss growing on it, and there's very little mess left behind in the trailer when we're all done. That is the benefit of hand loading, and it's labor intensive, but I really do think that is what separated us from everyone else in this area. It's extra work, but I really do think you get that money back, because you can charge a lot more for your firewood than the other place. I had seen some deliveries with the restaurants that I pick up. They'll have the previous place's firewood there. And yeah, it's not good looking stuff. So here we go. Guys, this is a whole cord of firewood. Yeah, and there's still good stuff in here I can pull out. And even if I just dump this on a customer's driveway, you know, think about how well presented this is. This is very minimal waste for a full cord of firewood. Looks great. And on top of that, this wood is seasoned. You know, it is dry, and I really do think that this is the nicest firewood in our area. I mean, just look at it. It looks great. This is that second trailer that I bought. It's a Moritz, and it still looks really good. The secret for me was this did not see any winter roads last year. I still took my old trailer out because I still have to come down to this restaurant in the wintertime, and I'm able to read the weather reports, you know, when would be a bad time to come. I don't want to take this out on slippery roads. But this one never saw road salt last year, and that's why it is still in halfway decent shape. You notice the frame, it's an I-beam. That's what I learned is if you guys are in northern climates with road salt, maybe if you're looking at a trailer, get them with an I-beam construction and stay away from that box tubing, because that box tubing, there's holes in it for the wires to run through. And that's where road salt can get inside of that box frame and rust it from the inside out. With your I-beam, you know, you can hit this with the pressure washer, get everything cleaned off of it. For you farmers out there, you would appreciate this. They had a problem with the birds, because a lot of birds hang out here at the mall. They were roosting in here and pooping all over the wood. So I had brought down this owl and put it up here, solved the bird problem. And there you go, guys, 1 cord of awesome seasoned, clean firewood, professionally delivered. So I want to thank you all for tagging along and making this an enjoyable trip. I think any day you can deliver firewood's a good day. So I consider this a lot of fun. All right, guys, I am going to go home. We're going to take the rest of the evening off, catch up on some college football, and relax. I hope everyone has a great day.